Welcome to the Camper Dan Files. My name is Chris, and in today's video we are going to replace the fan clutch, fan shroud, and fan blade on my 2001 R50 Pathfinder 5-speed 4x4. Now the reason why I'm replacing these particular items is due to the following. So I don't know if you guys can make it out here. Let me see if I can turn it to show where it's actually like compromised. So right here, you guys see these fractures here? Now in the past we did have a little bit of a discussion about this on Empora. At the time, one of my colleagues said that it wasn't an issue. It probably isn't, but it is a potential issue. I know at least one person personally that has had this happen to them, where the fan was so brittle with these fractures that one of their actual fan blades broke free. And luckily for them, it didn't do any damage. But here's another fracture on mine. Look at this. You guys see that? That baby's ready to break loose at any moment. So that's why I'm replacing the fan blade. Now for the fan clutch, I still think it works correctly. It engages and disengages. When I pull away from a traffic light, you'll hear the fan howling for a while, and then after a few seconds the howling will go away. And usually what that indicates is that the temperature on the radiator is starting to go down again. So the fan clutch will then disengage and it will go back to freewheeling essentially, which is fine because the vehicle's moving, we got air flowing through the radiator, and everything's happy, right? Now where it concerns my fan shroud, the reason why I'm replacing it, and I'm still kind of iffy about doing it, but if I'm gonna do all the work to replace the fan blade and fan clutch, I might as well go ahead and fix this. But yeah, I don't know how this happened, guys. I've had this shroud off once before, and this was removed during my alternator replacement. For those of you that have watched that video, it's a year later, a year plus later, and the alternator, a used OEM alternator, is still going strong. No issues there. But yeah, this guy, I don't know if it was due to vibration. That's what I think really caused it, really and truly. And just its age, it's plastic. But I've thought about maybe trying some Gorilla Glue. I have a replacement shroud that I picked up at the junkyard months ago, so we'll just use it. Why not? We already paid for it. We already have it, you know. So there we are. So we drove this guy to the junkyard this morning. We were waiting for it to cool off. It's now safe to open. So our radiator is full of coolant, as you guys can see. So what we're gonna need to do to complete these replacements is that we'll have to remove this upper radiator hose to get the shroud off. We're gonna drain the radiator, but we're not going to do like we did the last time we had to remove this upper radiator hose. We're just going to drain just enough coolant to clear the hose and the top of the radiator. These are all 10 millimeters, by the way. And that takes care of our splash shield. We'll just shove that under the R50 and get that out of our way. So here's the lower fan shroud. You want to remove that tab right here in the middle. You'll just have to press and release that guy. And then up here, and sadly I'm not going to be able to get it on camera for you guys probably, but here's a tab here, and then there's another one up above it, and I'll try and put a pointer in the video. This one is always fun to get to. But there's two here on the driver's side. This one here on the bottom middle that I just showed you guys. And then over here on the passenger side, there's two more. You have this right here. And then there's another up above it, if I can even get it in focus. Let me see if I can. That guy right there. Alright, so now that we have our lower fan shroud out of our way, we're going to go ahead and move to our next location, which is going to be our petcock. Loosen this guy up. And that coolant should start coming out of here in a moment. So we'll let that continue to drain there. But while we're waiting on that, we can go ahead and remove this overflow line here. And it has to be removed anyway from the upper radiator shroud. Otherwise you won't be able to get it out. Ask me how I know. I figured while we're waiting on the coolant to drain, we can go ahead and remove our upper fan shroud bolts. This is gonna be a 10 millimeter. And again, this guy is broken, as you can see. That's why we're replacing it. And I dropped it. Oh, it's right there. It's on the frame rail. I'll get it here in a moment. I have my Harbor Freight telescopic magnet here. It's a tool that I absolutely have come to love and adore because it helps me to retrieve things when I drop them. Bam. Alright, so we were able to get more than enough coolant removed. So we went ahead and closed off our petcock, and now we are going to work on getting the upper radiator hose removed. If I were you, I would just keep your catchment pan in place just in case any residual coolant comes out of this upper radiator hose, which there probably will be some. So it's better to be prepared than to just assume. And yep, I knew it. There was some residual coolant. Good, our catchment system is there catching that for us. So you unclasp that and remove your, I believe that's the cruise control cable. I think that's what that is. You want to remove that. This guy right here. You want to unclip this. It's quite easy. Just push it to the side, left or right, and then it'll unclasp for you without you breaking it or having to struggle. You shouldn't have to do this. But I find oftentimes if you just remove a little extra, just a few extra pieces, it helps to make the job that much easier versus trying to sneak. So when we try to sneak, it never ever works out. At least not for me anyway. So there, our engine cover is out of the way. Again, it takes a little bit of finagling. There's our upper fan shroud. So from here, we are going to be working on removing the fan blade. On the actual fan pulley is going to be 4 of these nuts. These are going to be a 10 millimeter. Yeah. Yes. Got him, coach. When I purchased that used OEM Shroud at the junkyard, it didn't have this on there, so we're going to transfer this over. Just two 10 millimeter bolts. There. And just just like that, we are now down to our last nut. Tighten this guy up by hand. There we go. And again, you don't have to crank down on these things like He-Man. In fact, when they're tight, you'll know because the fan and fan pulley will want to start spinning. So right there, it's like I just showed you guys. All right, guys, so we ended up removing our battery. We didn't need to, but it needs to be serviced anyway. Plus it gives us a little extra working room. Down here, you're gonna see those two holes there, one there and the other there. That's where the bottom of your upper fan shroud is gonna sit. Into those holes. And just gently pry the driver's side past your upper radiator hose, and you should be good to go. So now from here, all we're gonna do is put our fasteners back into our upper fan shroud. And then we're gonna go ahead and reattach our upper radiator hose. There. Bam. All right, so that's back in. And it doesn't have to be He-Man tight, you just want it to be snug. So there's everything on top. So if you were able to put everything back together and not break anything, this is what the bottom of your fan shroud should look like. And then up top, you want to make sure that you don't forget to put your overflow hose back in place. So it snaps in place over here on the driver's side of the fan shroud, and that little bracket there, and it comes up. It goes in here, and then come over here, get the end snugged up there, and then just run this clip back into place here. Should be like that, and that's it. Now you're ready to pour coolant in here, but first we have to go service our battery. Here it is. It's just a little dirty. I'm not filming this because I've showed you guys how to do this before. A battery service is something that you want to do at least once a year, just to keep things on the up and up. All right, we're back. Our battery has been nicely cleaned and serviced. Everything's all happy again. We have everything all nicely put back together. The next thing we're gonna do is bleed our coolant system. Again, we did lose a little bit of coolant, so we're gonna go ahead and top that up. So the first thing we're gonna do before we introduce any coolant into the cooling system, we are going to open up our coolant bleeder valve. Let me show you guys where that fella lives. So you see this rubber boot back here? That is how you bleed the VQ35DE. So you're gonna come in with your pliers, I'm gonna remove this clamp. Just rest that there. And we're gonna uncap this guy. It may be a little stubborn, so use your pliers to work it loose here. May also be some dried up debris in it, and you'll know for sure as you're filling the radiator with coolant, it should start bubbling out of that hole once the system is full and free of air. So here's our spill-proof funnel kit. If you guys are interested in this product, I'll be sure to leave a link in the description of this video. Any and everything that I use on the channel, guys, whether it's parts, off-roading gear, camping gear, tools, it all can be found in the description of my videos. So this particular kit, it is color coded. I'm familiar with it. I've used it a couple of times, and since green is my favorite color, it makes it easy for me to remember. Now we're just simply going to lower our funnel like so. And then we're going to start adding some coolant to this guy. We're just going to put enough until the system is full, or until we see coolant bubbling out of our cooling system breather tube. So far nothing's coming out. So I guess that's, oh, there it goes. There it goes. See there? See how it's flowing? That's what we want to see. So we're going to cap that guy off before we make a gigantic mess. Yeah, so once you see coolant coming out of that guy, you're just going to go ahead and cap it back off. For the longest time, I've struggled with getting the air bled out of this coolant system, because on some R50s, there's a bleeder valve up here near the front of the engine on the left side there. But this particular VQ35DE did not have that particular feature, so you can only bleed it in the back there. So now we're going to start the R50 up and let it idle for a bit. Now you obviously want to make sure if you're working in your garage that you have proper ventilation. My garage door is wide open, so no issues here. As for that bit of coolant that spilled on the upper intake plenum, we'll rinse that off when we get the R50 outside later. Alright guys, so everything's looking good. That's where our coolant is. There's no air bubbles. Also, and more importantly, we're pretty much right at operating temp. We have nice warm heat. So everything's good here. I also checked the level on our coolant reservoir, and it's right at the max line, so we don't need to add any additional coolant to it. Initially I was thinking I was going to take this residual and add it to the reservoir, but no, it's already full. So here in a minute, we're gonna pull this off, put our residual back into our jug of coolant, and we're done. All right, so we have our plunger here, or stopper. This is gonna be residual coolant. There's no getting around it. You just wanna make sure you have a catch pan in the appropriate area. And we'll just go ahead and lift this guy off, like so. Put it into our bottle. And then from there, just pull our plunger and let that residual coolant go right back into its bottle. Just like that. And then we'll plug that off. And we're gonna throw all of our attachments back in here. And then we'll put our cover back on. And we're done. I wanted to give you guys a closer look as to why we deemed it necessary to replace the fan. You see that crack? This baby was ready to blow any day. Like literally. Now, like I said, the clutch probably still works fine, so I'll keep the clutch as a spare. But the fan blade itself, it's over with. I'll let you guys be the judge. Would you ever replace this? Or just let it ride until it blows apart? I mean, look at that. And that's not just on one side, that's on both sides, inside and out, guys. It was ready to blow any day. Any day now. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like. Once again, my name is Chris, and this has been the Camper Dan Files. And until next time, keep using your Pathfinder as a Pathfinder, on or off the pavement.